Right now, the U.S. manufactures just 10% of the global supply of these chips and none of the most advanced chips for things like artificial intelligence. The hope is this new agreement with Intel will get the U.S. back in the game when it comes to semiconductor technology. President Biden gives a lot of speeches, but the one he made in the East Valley Wednesday is a big deal for Arizona.
Because this isn't just about investing in America. It's about investing in America, the American people as well.
The president was at Intel's Ocotillo campus to announce one of the largest federal investments in U.S. chip manufacturing ever. The tech giant will receive up to $8.5 billion in funding and $11 billion in loans to boost chip manufacturing at Intel plants around the country. The agreement is expected to create more than 30,000 construction and manufacturing jobs, with many of those jobs in Arizona.
This historic funding will use to build new semiconductor fab facilities and modernize and expand existing ones in Arizona, Ohio, New Mexico, and Oregon. Combined, it will create nearly 20,000 construction jobs, many of which will be union jobs.
The agreement will also create 10,000 manufacturing jobs, with 3,000 of those new jobs in the Phoenix area, with salaries averaging $100,000. Funding for the Intel projects comes from the CHIPS and Science Act, one of Biden's biggest legislative achievements, passed by Congress with bipartisan support in 2022. Most of the reaction to Wednesday's announcement has been positive, but critics of the president say his visit to Arizona should have addressed our current border crisis.
Arizona is a swing state, and what happens here has dramatic impact on the rest of the country. And quite frankly, it's offensive to me to have the President of the United States come here and hand out money during an election year when it's pretty clear that it's designed to buy votes.
It's no secret Biden is trying to highlight his major accomplishments as he runs for a second term. With Arizona being a swing state, you can bet the president will be back here again before the November election. Back to you guys.
Jason, thanks. President Biden also met with Latino voters on his stop here in the Valley at the El Portal restaurant right near downtown Phoenix. It has long been a gathering spot for the Hispanic community, and today we spoke with one of the employees about welcoming a president into the restaurant.
Experience was amazing, energy was immaculate. The way he came, was playing with the babies, people, we walked around the room, we all got to shake his hand and meet him. He's a very, very nice man to represent our country, for sure.
Well, we did ask what the president ate at El Portal. Unfortunately, we're told he'd eaten, likely on Air Force One, before he arrived.